Hello, in this short video, I'm going to present the MMU1 proposal to your Ministry Department of Education and the school district. I'm trying to bring the math poverty and to boost it to the math prosperity. And as you can see, it's math poorest half with about 25 percentile, the math best half about 75 percentile, which is about 1.35 standard deviation in normalization. And to get there normally take many decades, if not century, and to start revolution in this case only a few years or statewide, yeah, and evidence provided at the end of the link. And to visually present what it looks like, if you look at the richest G20 country over the past 12 years of the PISA is basically horizontal, and the yellow arrow is what is MMU1 impact will be like. EU countries, that's what it's going to look like. And the math stagnation is prevalent across the all OECD country basically. And this is we are going to use data from the PISA and MTIMS, and this visually go side by side. Australia, New Zealand are going down the hill fast. The United States is zigzagging. UK and you got the idea. OECD's average is stagnating, a little bit declining. Math 2015 data, if you look at the US about math poverty about 30%, the OECD, most of the English-speaking country about 20-25%, and even Canada, Germany, 15-20% of the student population is math poverty. Yeah, and this is not small number, but to overcome that, even push it at half a standard deviation will take more than 100 years, and according to the past history of 15 years, and yeah. So your choices in traditional manner, it takes forever, it's not efficient, and to make it even worse, if you look at the yellow area, it's English-speaking country, it's reading gain is much higher than the math gains, like half year, 1 year, and Latin America is even worse, and in contrast to the East Asian country, math gains are 1-2 years ahead more than the reading. And its economic impact is not tangential, not negligible, as you can see here. This is my discovery, but you can get to my website to find out. So where is the solution? I'm proposing MMU1 from lower 25% to the 75 percentile. I'm going to designate with the yellow arrows. And let's look at these teams for the past 20 years, or the English-speaking countries here, and traditional, a little bit crawling, and quasi-horizontal versus yellow arrows, MMU1. The choice is yours, and the entire distribution of this is basically 25 percentile to 75 percentile in the history of 20 years, quasi-flat, and or the other one is MMU1. And this is three of the declining: New Zealand, Australia, UK, United States here versus again impact one. And let's look at the teams of fourth grade in the English-speaking countries became flat, and basically what I'm proposing here is from the 25 percentile group, roughly belong there for this country to their level, whatever the ranges may be. And the PISA case is in the mostly declining or flat, and in this case, mid-tier English-speaking countries, 6 English-speaking countries in the OECD, and what impact will be MMU1 look like this. Again, go to the pause anytime and rewind because I'm speaking fast and moving forward, not for anybody. And this is entire 20 years of a team's math trajectory. Quasi-horizontal, as you can see, is believe your eyes, not my words. And well, again, this is MMU1 impact is going to be like 25 percentile to the top of the world, more or less 75 percentile. And let's look at the more local level. This is again OECD country, and statewide in this country, Canada, Australia, New Zealand, the US distribution, and the worst district of these states will be roughly around there. And well, MMU1 basically cover all of them, as you can see. Again, pause and rewind anytime you like. So to make my case more convincing, let's use the PISA 2015, the most recent data of the top Latin American country, about 50-55% of math poverty. OECD normally about 15-25% of the student population. And then, as I said before, my target is from the 25 percentile to the 75 percentile, more or less, depending on the anchor where you start. So basically, yellow arrow is what is indicating. And the state variation of these countries here, the reddish ones are basically what's the third states of the country, and the districts of worst half of these districts will be normally around this ellipse distribution, and which is much more than enough for the MMU1 to cover. Now let's go over the individually for the 6 OECD English-speaking country. USA, basically flat. UK, as you can see, is a flat. A little bit declining, basically, and this one is shaded zone is basically different between 25 and 75 percentile. This is in the US case, this is roughly about Mexico, a little bit more or less. This is about Hong Kong, South Korea, around this zone. Basically, that difference is going to change with the MMU1. And let's look at the New Zealand and Australia. So New Zealand and Australia is declining more than the US and UK, as you can see, and this is basically what it's going to be like. You can pause it in time. Canada was a little bit less declining, but Ireland is basically flat, similar to the UK, and well, this is basically what normally. In other words, in traditional manner is not going to change. No matter how much money you pump into the education system, math education is stagnated, already not going to change much. Trinidad, basically same thing. So the traditional manner is going to take too much time, cost too much money without efficiency. This is obvious. The pattern is a pattern. That's the history tells us. And then let's look at the UK, United States grade 4 and 8 full major city districts, and it reached the plateau. This is not international, national one, and versus 2 years of reform in this district will look like that. And how about Australia? Australia, this is the 8th jurisdiction of Australia. It's all declining, and if it's a 3 years reform with the MMU1, it will look like this. You can, it's not cheating. You can see basically, and look at the entire 8 jurisdiction of the UK is the math poverty part is the shaded band, and then yellow area is going to be what is going to jump up. Again, this is depending on the 2, 3, 4 years time frame, 2, 3 years for the states, and instead of 50, 100 years or even more or never. In the United States, the NAP again, national is data, not international. Again, for the past 10 years is plateaued and jumping. And I can go on again, but you got the idea. If it's 14 states with the biggest district in the United States, it's already horizontal past 10 years. As you can see, no matter what they say, it's what it is and what it is. Yeah, and we shouldn't fool ourselves. And the entire gamut of U.S. states, and if it's a proficiency bottom line, this orange arrow is like 1/3 of MMU1, and this is basically changing this much still. Again, if I have to recapture my highlight, and initially I want to take the worst I have the master states with especially the worst districts, and showing the sample thing, and then we can go from there to bring the math revolution. And this is again what the yellow arrow MMU1 is going after, and this is in the US case. This is like the worst math state. The top state difference is roughly about this side. Anything math poverty normally in the developed country is only that. So you can contact me through the website also. So let's make an action. As Einstein said, the world is dangerous, and not because of its evil or anything like that, but because nobody's taking action. Thank you very much. Have a good day. I hope to hear from you soon.